Actually, I'm about to bend this shit. There we go. I got more space. Perfect.
Oh, fuck.
What?
Okay, you're going to give me like 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. What are you looking for?
Actually, no. We're good. It shouldn't affect anything. All right. I'm ready.
All right, calm me down. I've been live. Welcome back to another episode of JNJTalksports podcast. I am your host, Justin, quote-unquote Skywalker Palizzi. You can follow me on Twitter at easypalizzi_21. You can follow our amazing podcast page on both Instagram and Twitter at JNJTalksports. You can also email us at jnjtalksports@gmail.com with any questions, concerns, comments, and or future topics you would like for us to discuss. This week we have a lot lined up. We are bringing back our favorite segment, Worldwide News. But before we get into that, let me introduce one of my two overly large-sized co-hosts. Like every other week, my man Lyle. How's it going, buddy?
It's going great. It's a lovely Wednesday, October 24th evening. I'm chilling in a hoodie, wearing the headphones on the outs because I can, because it's that nice outside. Again, you can follow me at LYLESSTYLE, and we're going to jump into a lot of different topics. Let's start with the first one. We're going to go into some WWE. Yes, some people say it's not a sport, but these people are athletes, the way they put their bodies on the line. And Roman Reigns, if you didn't hear, is back.
And we wanted to start off the podcast with just this little piece of news because it's the most saddest news that we do have on the podcast. But go ahead, Lyle.
Roman Reigns has told everyone alive on Raw that he is, his leukemia is back. He has beaten it once before. We wish him the best in beating it again. And even though his character, Roman Reigns, he has a different real name. His character is one of the most hated in WWE. The person behind the character we are rooting for 100%. Get better, sir. And, thoughts and prayers are with you.
Fully confident we'll see him in the ring again.
Mm-hmm. And off to some less depressing, but still slightly depressing news. New York hockey. Rangers are 3-5-1 through the first 9 games with 7 points. The Islanders are 3-4 through the first 7 games with 6 points. The Rangers are in a full rebuild season. They've gotten rid of all their bloated contracts. They have youth. They brought in a new coach, Dan Quinn. Nobody expected them to be any good. They still have Henrik, who's on the twilight of his career, but they're not going to be great this season.
They're treating him like Eli Manning, basically.
He's
you can't get rid of him. Well, he got more left in the tank. It's a different
sport. He's a lot more left in the tank.
I'm talking about as far as the I guess the tenure wise, like they're keeping him around for as long as they can, as long as he wants to play hockey. To be honest,
the guy can still play. And then the Islanders, their big loss of just Tavares to the Maple Leafs. They didn't really reload. It's going to be another disappointing season for the Islanders. They didn't really improve much. New York hockey this season is going to be painful. I'd recommend picking a second team, preferably on the West Coast. If you want to enjoy some good hockey.
Now, as we know, all right. So the Islanders are just bad. Like it's obviously they're in rebuild mode as well.
They've been in rebuild mode for like 30 years.
Exactly. Yeah. They lost the key to their rebuild. Now, the Rangers are a little bit different. They actually have phone blown out. Like I said, they got rid of all the contracts. They got the youth. They got a new coach in place to lead them, hopefully to the promised land within the next, 3 to 5 years. Hockey does take quite a bit longer than other sports because it's not like that one player can put you over the top like a franchise quarterback, right? Or like that starting point guard or small forward in basketball that can lead you further as a single player.
If you have a good team, exactly. If you have a good team, a superstar will get you to the cup. If you have a
Now,
terrible team, one player might make you entertaining.
Now, with that said, the Islanders were a very competitive team last year with just that one superstar in Tavares. Now they lose him. Now you would think that the Islanders are going to finish worse than the Rangers, but if you look on the points per game basis, now to be a good team in the NHL, you need at least a 1.1 to a 1.2 points per game on average. So basically 20% above, how many games you play, which is 82. So you want to get at least 20 points, anywhere between 15 to 20 points more than that of the games you play. So based off the points percentage, it looks like the Islanders are on pace. I mean, we're only 9 games in for the Rangers, 7 games for the Islanders. Islanders are on pace to finish the season better than the Rangers. Ultimately, at the ending of the season, where did the Rangers and the Islanders end compared to each other? Is it pretty much going to be
So
Rangers on top of the Islanders, or will the
honestly,
Islanders surprise
I
us?
mean, it depends on how the youth melds, but the Islanders do have a little bit more experience, a little bit more talent. They're going to be bottom of the barrel teams, but I do think the Islanders will finish slightly ahead of the Rangers, which pains me to say, being a Rangers fan.
Awesome. So let's talk some football, Al. Let's talk some
Ooh,
European soccer.
so football. All right, we're going to start with least interesting to most interesting. Least interesting, we're going to start with France, League One. PSG, 10 wins, 0 losses, up 8 points in that league. We know that's a wrap. And the rest of the leagues are surprisingly interesting. Justin, I know you want to talk about Serie A because Serie A is your baby. Tell us what's going on over there.
Yeah, so of course, and I don't mean this in a cocky way because Juventus is my team, but of course they're in first place, leading 4 points, 25-21 against Napoli. I mean, this is kind of set in stone. Every year is Juventus and Napoli up there. You do have teams like AS Roma who do compete every other year when they have the players for it. You have Inter Milan who's in third with 19. Lazio in fourth with 18, and then it kind of drops off to 15 points with Sampdoria, who's probably going to continue to drop there. AC Milan is a little bit disappointing and underwhelming as they usually are with 12 points, and they are in 12th. Now, one thing I want to mention that is the Juventus are 8-1 on the season. Their one tie was against a Genoa team that has no talent. They don't play no defense. As their goal differential is at 0, but that's because their offense is pretty good. But I do.
Oh no, the goal difference was -2.
-2. So I apologize for So they're -2. So like I said, their defense is nothing spectacular. They have a 1-1 tie against them. I expected Juventus to come out better, but then they went on to have a 2-game win streak since then. Of course, Ronaldo is their leading goal scorer with 5 goals. It's a little underwhelming for me personally because my favorite player, Dybala, has 1 goal. But, so be it. And I expect the standings to pretty much, at least the top 4, to stay within that zone for pretty much the whole season.
Yeah, I think Serie A is going to be an interesting league. Juventus has the most talented squad, but Napoli has the best coach in all of Serie A. And Inter don't look half bad with Incardi leading the line. Serie A is going to be interesting. I do think Juventus is going to hold on to this because, again, they just have such a dearth of talent. It's unreasonable. Moving on from Serie A to two surprising leagues. We're going to start with Bundesliga, the German league. Justin, who's to your understanding, who's the best team in the German league?
It's always Bayern Munich.
Where do you think they're placed right now, without looking?
Well, I'm not even looking. I'm looking for Serie B standings. So I want to brag a little bit about Palermo, but just based off how you're asking me the question, I'm gonna say they're probably. I'll be realistic. Probably like 4th.
Bayern Munich is in 4th place. Dortmund, Borussia Mönchengladbach, and Werder Bremen are all ahead of Bayern. Bayern has not looked too hot this season, and Dortmund are on fire. They are
Dortmund's
scoring.
Always a good team.
No, but this they've been on the downtrend a little bit a couple years. They had some coaching issues, but this year they are on fire. They have a goal difference of 19, 27 goals for, 8 against. The next closest is 10. They are crushing it and cruising it thanks to Barcelona, Palacio Alciar, and they look like a team to be reckoned with in large part thanks to American Christian Pulisic as well. I think that we're going to have, back in 2011, 2012, when Dortmund were being coached by Jurgen Klopp and they were winning a couple of Bundesligas, This could be another season. And Mönchengladbach have the other Hazard brother who's tearing it up. And Werner Bremen just has a staunch defense. And that's how they're pushing by. Bundesliga could be very interesting this year. And speaking of very interesting, La Liga. What is happening in La Liga? Real Madrid, 7th place. Atletico Madrid, 5th place. Valencia, 14th place. Bilbao, 9th place. You want to know what the top 4 are? Barcelona with 18 points. Espanyol, Espanyol with 17 points in 2nd. Alves, a newly promoted team, with 17 points in 3rd place. And Sevilla with 16 points, again, their perennial power, with 16 points in 4th place. Espanyol and Alves, I'm guaranteed neither Justin, nor Nick, nor Charles, nor Ben, nobody who doesn't follow La Liga can name, even a lot of people who do follow Liga, can name me a player on Espanyol or Alves. It's insane what's happening. It's insane the drop-off Real Madrid are having. Atletico struggling. Barcelona are limping through. They're 5-3-1. They're not crushing this league. They're only 1 point out.
And now Messi's out for what, about a month?
He's out for a month. Absolutely. Again, Barcelona. Again, we're going to get into the Champions League. Barcelona did win this last fixture without Messi, but La Liga and Bundesliga are going to be very interesting. But I have to bring you to my favorite league, and I think the most competitive league in terms of top-tier talent fighting for top-tier positions.
Absolutely. Unless you're talking about the American League, in which every team stinks, and then, you know.
Okay, well, firstly, I've been enjoying MLS of late. Wayne Rooney and Zlatan Ibrahimovic are crushing it.
Did you know, fun fact, sorry to interrupt you, if you won the Mega Millions yesterday for $1.6 billion, you would have been able to afford LA Galaxy by paying cash after taxes, and everything, paying cash for the LA Galaxy and still having $20 million left over. Like, would you have done that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You would have threw all that money when you were at a soccer team and just keep $20 million.
MLS teams are appreciating in value. I will see a return on investment in at least 8 years, son.
Yeah. See, me, I would have just went and bought my island and just sat with all my billions and trillions of dollars.
So, speaking of billions and trillions of dollars, let's talk about the Premier League. Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham. Those are the top 5 with 2 points between them. These are 5 perennial powers. They are who we thought they were. And oh my goodness, this league, I don't think anyone's pulling away. Man City are doing Man City things. They look excellent under Pep Guardiola again.
So our predictions are looking pretty good right now, because I had Liverpool winning the Premier League, and you had Man City, and right now they're at a dead tie.
Yep. The only thing is dividing them, I believe, is goal difference. Where I don't know, they're tied on goal difference as well. My apologies.
No, goal difference is 23-13.
23. No, goals. Oh wow, never mind. Not tied. Can't read. Yeah, sorry. Man City's goal difference is absolutely ridiculous. But Man City 7-2, Liverpool 7-2, Chelsea under Sarri have looked fantastic. Jorginho, Eden Hazard looks revitalized, and they're doing this with Alvaro Morata, who can't score to save his life. And then they're bringing on super sub Giroud, who's setting up Hazard all day. And then my boys, Arsenal, have won their last 10 games in a row. 7 in the Premier League, 2 in Europa, 1 Capital, 1 Cup. They are looking fierce, and they are there at 21 points with Chelsea, and Tottenham are, of course, sticking around. But, you know, they're going to have some issues because they can't afford their stadium. They're not going to be able to buy anyone. I expect them to drop off. Biggest surprise to everyone except for me and anyone who follows Jose Mourinho's teams, Manchester United languishing all the way down in 10th place at 14 points. With the talent that they have, they should be up with Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, City. But I don't know what's going on. Is it Mourinho? Is it the players? Is it Ed Woodward? Or are Man United finally, is their supremacy completely finished? are they completely done? Will they have another run like they did with Sir Alex Ferguson? They have the money. I
They're
think they
gone.
have the players. I don't know. I don't know. And honestly, when a Man U's competing, it is always more entertaining. But this year we don't need them because we have 5 teams battling for that top spot. And last thing I want to talk about is the Champions League, which happened these past 2 days. I'm going to breeze through. Group A is basically finished. Group B is also basically finished. Tottenham are going to be knocked out and end up in the Europa if they beat PSV Eindhoven. Group C is going to be a struggle. You have Liverpool, Napoli, and PSG 6, 5, and 4 points respectively. Whoever drops out of that is going to be the favorite to win the Europa League, even though Arsenal is there. That is the group of death, and it has been a very exciting group to watch. If you saw PSG's last-minute goal today and Angel Di Maria with that curler, it's just sex. As Mesut Ozil would say, it's just sexy football. Group D again is also a battle. These are lower tier teams: Porto, Schalke, and Galatasaray. They're competing for the 3 spots. Group E is finished. Group F is more or less finished, and Group G, CSKA Moscow can still slip in ahead of Roma and Real Madrid, but it looks pretty much done. And then Group H, it's going to be between Valencia and United for that last spot. These next 2 rounds of fixtures are going to be extremely exciting for the Champions League. And I think that's all I'm going to have to say about soccer today, because I could go into Europa League, but Arsenal hasn't played, and I don't want to jinx it. Justin, back over to you.
Yeah, I want to talk about a little bit of boxing here, man. And we have a great fight coming up this Saturday, October the 27th. We have Daniel Jacobs, who, as we all know, is a quote-unquote the miracle man, born and raised Brooklyn, New York, 31 years of age, 160 pounds. He is 34-2 with 29 wins of way of knockout. He is fighting, and Lyle, our listeners, everybody, bear with me. He's fighting Sergey Derevyanchenko. Basically, Derevyanchenko. That's when you listen to the announcers pronounce his name. They pretty much chop it up as well. He's also 32 years old. Crazy thing, Lyle. Crazy thing. He's also from Brooklyn, New York. He has a 12-0 record with 10 wins by the way of knockout. They are fighting in Madison Square Garden. 2 Brooklyn born and raised men basically fighting against each other for the championship belt. 160 weight class. They're basically fighting in their hometown. It should be. I'm not even gonna lie. I went to go look at tickets just because I was out of curiosity. And for the upper level, the tickets are $65. That's pretty freaking good to see 2 guys born and raised from Brooklyn fight in Madison Square Garden. I actually may consider going to that fight. Pretty last minute. There's a lot of tickets on Ticketmaster available if anybody listening to this are interested. That fight, like I said, is this Saturday, October 27th. Also want to mention Triple G. Yes, and we know the Triple G loss to Canelo was very controversial, but he just signed a major deal. Not sure what the money-wise what it is, because that hasn't leaked out 100% yet. Maybe Lyle can find that out for me. But he signed an 11-year deal with DAZN. DAZN is a live streaming sports app / website that is very popular in Japan, Russia, Germany, and many other parts of Europe, where you can see basically specific sports teams, specific fighters in UFC and or boxing live, as if you're paying pay-per-view, but instead you're paying for a monthly service for this live sports streaming kind of application. They're up and coming. Lyle, you look kind of shocked. How much money is he making off of this?
Alvarez, promoter Golden Boy,
Yep.
and new streaming service DAZN shook things up last week when they announced that DAZN has signed Alvarez to a record contract. This is from ESPN, by the way. $365 million over 5 years and 11 fights.
Yeah, so they signed Canelo Alvarez for 11 fights for that price. They also signed Triple G as well. So they're going to get 11 fights live from Triple G and Canelo. And worst case scenario, they'll probably get 2 between the both of them. like fighting each other, right? Realistically, they'll probably fight each other maybe 1 or 2 more times. So you got 9 separate fights between Triple G and Canelo Alvarez that they have to fight on that streaming website. So they get paid by the app, and then they'll get paid by boxing as well. So it's pretty cool. I mean, good for Dazan, up and coming streaming app. So be it. People are going for the money, and if they're willing to pay that much, they must be doing good elsewhere. We're gonna move over on here to our last topic in worldwide news, and that's the NCAA college basketball. And I want to talk about Darius Baisley. Lau, do you remember who Darius Baisley was?
The number 1 commit for Syracuse, that
Yes,
Darius Baisley.
the number 1 commit, number 13 ranked last year, who committed to Syracuse and decided not to go to Syracuse and enter the G League in order to get better as a basketball player, than enter the 2019 NBA draft. Well, he just signed a quote unquote internship with New Balance worth $1 million. First off, that smells like hashtag scam. Second of all, that smells like hashtag we're signing you to a deal the minute you get into the NBA. So what are your thoughts on that, Lyle? Do you think this is a quote unquote internship, or do you think it's like something legit?
Well, no, of course it's not an internship. Everyone knows that. The whole thing behind this is we're going to sign you to an internship and then sign you to a pre-contract, because then when you go pro, you sign with New Balance, who has no,
No
basketball
athletes.
stars at the moment. Basketball stars, they have other athletes. But honestly, for this kid, if he can, if he plays some ball somewhere else, plays in some tournaments, he's pretty, again, number 13th ranked recruit. That's borderline lottery pick. If if there's no upperclassmen that are any good, get that money while you can. I think the 30
The
for
best
30
money.
for, well, the thing is the 30 for 30 about oh my God, who's the Kentucky coach again? I'm blanking.
Oh, Calipari?
Yeah, about Calipari, when he's talking about him and that, right, I think it was that Rice team and that point guard
Right.
who was only in for 1 season.
Right.
And then he had like that severe issue, and he got in that 1 season, he got that money. You never know what could happen. So why let the NCAA use your face and image when you could already go and get that money? Because we already know he's going pro. He's not a 4-year player. His goal is to go pro. He's good enough to go pro. Let him do his thing.
Yep, it's crazy, and I do think this is going to start a trend. I see more players doing this, as we discussed the first time we heard about this. Probably within like the first 3 episodes that we did as a podcast, we definitely talked about this. We're going to move on here to our first topic of the night, the MLB playoffs. This is probably going to be a breeze. As we all know, it's the Red Sox, the Boston Red Sox versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. The 2 teams I did not want to see in the World Series are the 2 teams playing in the World Series. Loud, this goes without saying. We want LA to win this thing, right?
So here's what I truly want. I want there to be a huge dust up between Machado and a couple of the Red Sox players. There's a humongous brawl. Everyone goes at it, spitting, punching, bats being thrown, gloves being tossed. The crowd gets involved. No one gets seriously injured, but everyone gets suspended. The World Series is canceled. The Yankees are the de facto champions, because in my heart. That's what I hope happens.
So when Lyle wakes up from his dream, I'll ask him this next question. Kershaw, he started game 1 against Chris Sale. Now, Chris Sale didn't have that great of a game himself. He pitched 4 innings, allowed 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. He allowed 1 home run. Okay, pitched 91 pitches in those 4 innings, so he definitely got the work on him. The Boston bullpen came in, pitched 6 innings of 1-run baseball, which was pretty impressive. Kershaw allowed 5 of the 8 runs that the Red Sox scored. Is Kershaw just not a playoff pitcher, or is this more of a sign of his downfall in his career?
I mean, the World Series is, again, one of the most difficult times to pitch. And again, you're playing against the best team from the other side. Aces from time to time get rocked by excellent hitting. Do I think? Yeah, I think Kershaw is going to is starting to become on the back end of his prime. Absolutely. But to judge him by a complete decline by one game, you can't do it. It's not like he got destroyed. He pitched a decent game. He didn't pitch an ace game, but he pitched an okay game. You expect more from Clayton Kershaw because he is Clayton Kershaw. But it is what it is. I think he's still got a couple more years left in him. But this is going to be an interesting series, one that I hope ends in a massive brawl and suspensions and no winner.
Right, and the Dodgers could have won this game. There were two plays that didn't go their way. I believe it was in the seventh inning. One where there was a ground ball hit to Machado. He grabbed, turned through the second. Second baseman kind of got like he was slid into, but there was no controversy there. Those who ball the first baseman. The first baseman kind of waits for the ball to bounce and then catch it. Instead of sticking that glove out to catch it, and the runner was saved by basically a split second. That would have been a double play to end the inning. And then the next batter hits a bloop single in which Jock Peterson, the minute the ball comes off the bat, Jock Peterson kind of starts jogging, not realizing the ball's coming to him, and then starts to run, goes, dives for the ball, bounces underneath his glove, goes out of the stands for a ground rule double. But I got to give props to Alex Cora, right? So he, as we all know, he follows the analytical aspect of the game, right? He did two very unanalytical things in game one. I'm not sure if you're made aware of this. One, he started left-handed batter Rafael Devers, 2-year player, second-year player, was a rookie last year against Clayton Kershaw. Okay, he went 0 for 2. He did have a walk, right? And he did have an RBI. I'm sorry, he went 1 for 2. He did have a walk. He did have an RBI. He did have a strikeout. So he played a decent game, being that he should not have been in the lineup against the lefty Kershaw. But guess what he did? He pinch hit him for Eduardo Nunez, former Yankee, former quote unquote the next Derek Jeter, if you remember, Lau. Didn't turn out that way. He looked like Derek Jeter on that hit, on that 3-run in the seventh inning. Alex Cora made two decisions, two non-analytical decisions in the first game of the World Series that ultimately led them to game one victory. And I gotta say, if Alex Cora has the balls to do something like that, then you know what? This is just Boston's year. And right now, it's the bottom of the seventh inning. They're up 4-2. It looks like they're gonna win game two as well. And it's gonna suck to see Boston win. But I am still pulling through for the Dodgers.
You're pulling through the Dodgers. I'm pulling through for the Fantastical.
The Fantastical is not going to happen a lot. So when you wake up from your dream, let me and the listeners know. We're going to move over here to college football. And there's only one really major thing to discuss here. Well, two, because I'm going to mention the current rankings. But the major thing here is that this past week, in week 8 of the college football season, there was a major upset in Ohio State, losing on the road 20-48, a 29-point defeat to the Purdue Boilermakers, a team that Lyle had won the NCAA tournament.
Purdue, they're my boys.
Lyle, what are your thoughts? What are some of your thoughts on this Ohio State loss?
Where was the Ohio State defense? Yikes! I know you lost Nick Bosa. But damn, 128 yards, 8 yards per carry by DJ Knox, 170 yards for Randall Moore. Like, you guys just got obliterated. Where was the defense? And Ohio State, again, Dwayne Haskins, 1 interception. Can you really put the blame on him?
No, he threw 73 passes, so 1 interception and 73 attempts is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's the Ohio State defense was abysmal. And one player does not a defense make. This was an absolute abject failure by every single individual from the coaching staff down. They got absolutely manhandled by a okay Purdue team, by a, maybe they'll get one of the outer bowl Purdue teams. It's not a good team. And you just got absolutely obliterated like Purdue was, Alabama.
So for me, it's 3 things here. So one, the run offense, right, for Ohio State. So they had a total of 29 carries as a team, 76 yards for 3 yards per carry. Now, I don't know if that was because they were trailing for most of the game or because I mean they were down 14-3 going into the halftime. So I don't know if because of that or because they simply couldn't run the ball. You got to think about it. Dwayne Haskins threw the ball 73 times. That can also be an issue, though. You don't want your quarterback throwing the ball 73 times, but like I said, they were down a ton in this game, so maybe that leads towards it. That's one. Number two, the Buckeyes actually outgained the Boilermakers 546 yards of total offense to 539. Not a huge difference, only 7 yards, right? Okay, boom. Dwayne Haskins tossed for a school record of 470 yards. Boom, cool. Purdue converted on 6 of 15 third downs for 40%, compared to the Ohio State third down conversion of 11 for 22 for 50%. Between the 20s, Ohio State had no problem moving the ball up and down the field. Here's where the issue lied. Here's issue number two. They didn't score in the red zone. Two of their first red zone opportunities, they kicked 2 short field goals, and then they missed the field goal by kicking it at the 2-yard line. Here's mistake number 3, Lyle. Where's Urban Meyer's courage? Where's his? I'm trying to keep it PG-13. Where's his balls? Right? I mean, you're at the 2-yard line. 2-yard line. You're losing against a team on the road, and you decide to kick a field goal in which you ended up ultimately missing. Where you have a running back and a quarterback that either one could take the carry up the middle for 2 yards for a touchdown, and you kick a field goal at the 2-yard line and you miss it. Poor coaching decisions, pathetic red zone offense, and not being able to successfully run the ball is ultimately why Ohio State lost this game. Now, the next question I want to ask you really quickly before we move on is what does Ohio State have to do in order to fight back and be considered for a playoff team? Nothing. There's nothing they can do.
Oh, that's nonsense.
The only thing that they can do is hope that the teams above them lose, because they dropped in the standings. And I'm going to go over the standings right now. Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, LSU. And so I'm going to stop with the top 3, Alabama, Clemson, and Notre Dame. They're undefeated. LSU, Michigan both won this past week. They both have 1 loss. Okay, unless those 2 teams lose again throughout the rest of the season, Ohio State's not jumping them. There's no way that they're jumping either of those 2 teams, especially after winning this past week. LSU had a very impressive win this week, as well as Michigan. You have Texas, who's 6-1. Okay, they could probably jump them because they played 1 less game. Georgia, they could jump. Oklahoma, Florida. UCF is undefeated at 7-0, but as we all know, they have no respect. Now Ohio State is at 11. I can see them getting back into the top 10 and get back into the top 8. I'm sorry, unless LSU or Michigan both lose or either one loses, I do not see them going back into the top 4. Even if Notre Dame loses or Clemson loses, they're just going to move up LSU. They're going to move up Michigan. And Ohio State they're in a bad situation here. They are not only going to have to blow out every single team that they verse here from on out, but they're going to need help as well.
So here's the great thing about college football, and this is why I'm laughing a little bit. Who does LSU play next week?
Who did they play?
Alabama.
Okay.
If there's your loss, there's your possible loss. Who does Michigan's
I'll play devil's advocate. What if LSU wins? You think Alabama's going to drop out the top 4?
No, absolutely not.
They're not. No, and that makes it even harder for Ohio State to make it.
But here's the thing. Ohio State has a very reasonable path still back to the playoffs. They play Michigan still. They still have to play Michigan this year. Their fate is still in their hands. They have to beat Penn State. Not an easy game.
Okay.
Oh no, sorry, that's Michigan. Ohio State can win out and win the Big Ten title and easily slide back into that.
So if Michigan State wins out, if Ohio State wins out, right? Technically, what happened with Michigan? They got
lost to Ohio State.
That's what I'm saying. They have a very slim chance to do it. Michigan is very good.
It's in their hands.
Harbaugh's in the hot seat. I think this is the year that Michigan finally does it and they make it to the playoffs. Now, they may need some luck to go their way and probably get ranked higher than where Notre Dame is because you don't want to versus Alabama in that first playoff game. But We'll see. Like you said, you're right, Lau. The faith is in their hands, but at the same day, they still need help because
They
even
need
with an impressive win against Michigan, you still need LSU to lose against Alabama because Alabama could lose to LSU, and those two teams would still
and
be
still
in
win the
top
title.
four. So
The one wild card is if Clemson, who hasn't looked super impressive, lose. There is a good chance to drop out because they are playing a much lower caliber of competition in the
you
ACC.
still have a very good, even though I think they're overachieving a little bit, Texas squad. You still
Mm-hmm.
have a very good Georgia squad and a very good Oklahoma squad, and those two teams are both still ranked above Ohio State. Now Ohio State is on a bye week this week, so hey, best case scenario, either Georgia or Texas or Oklahoma lose this week while they're not playing, and they fall below Ohio State, and Ohio State gets higher up in the rankings during the bye week. But
Yeah, as again,
we'll
as
see what
so,
happens.
yeah, as
Well,
much as I love talking
it's gonna be
about
very
Ohio,
interesting.
as much as I love talking about Ohio State, I think we're burying the lead here. The University of Buffalo is officially bowl eligible, and that is a very big deal.
Hey, so
That's the most important thing that we need to take away from this.
speaking of that, and this is not official yet because tickets don't go on sale until I believe early next week. I believe the 30th they go on sale. But as Lau knows, I do have some ties up in Cortland, New York for the University of SUNY Cortland, and they have a big football game that goes on each and every year between SUNY Cortland, and SUNY Ithaca. Uh,
Powerhouse game.
it's called Cortica. It's kind of corny the way that they just put both teams together, but it's kind of cool. It's a big event for both cities, and both cities are only 20 minutes apart. So uh, I am going to try to get tickets for that, being that I do have property up there, and we are going to be able to stay overnight, enjoy the game, have a couple of beers, be hashtag
Responsible.
responsible adults. So, uh, and if we do go to that, please be aware that J&J Talk Sports will be heavily broadcasting and promoting that game. And hopefully, you guys that are listening are up there as well, watching the game with us. But we're gonna move on here from college football to NFL football. We have some NFL news. We had a week in which there was a lot of injuries occurring, as well as a lot of injuries reconfirming. We'll start off with Gronk. Gronk was ruled out last minute on Sunday due to the back injury. He didn't travel with the team on Saturday. Uh, they still won in Chicago, and his Week 8 status is up in the air. I do not expect him to play on the road against Buffalo. Sony Michel for the Patriots also re-injured his knee. The good news is there was no damage. It was just a sprain. He's doubtful to play in Week 8. I don't think he plays in Week 8, so maybe we'll see him for Week 9. Dalvin Cook, as we all know, has been out week after week, finding a hamstring injury. He's basically this year's Leonard Fournette. Um, he has been unofficially ruled out to week 11. Now, the Vikings play week 8 this week, then they play week 9 next week, and then they have their bye week 10. So it kind of makes sense. If he wasn't going to play week 8, why force him back week 9 when the bye week is the week after? So he's out until at least week 11 for now. LaShawn McCoy is in concussion protocol. He's doubtful to play this Sunday against the Patriots. For Miami, keeping it in the AFC East, unfortunately. For Miami, Wilson, Stills, and Tannehill are all out Sunday. Wilson is out for the year and was placed on IR. Kiki Cootie, one of my favorite wide receiver waiver wire pickups in all my
Isn't
fantasy
isn't
leagues.
he? Is that the person Drake is talking about in that song?
That is not the person he's talking about in the song loud, but I see where your mind is at. I liked it. I like it. Kiki Cootie has been ruled out for Thursday Night Football with a hammy injury, but the Houston Texans do expect Will Fuller to play. Chris Thompson, and good news for both Nick and I, is confident that he plays this Sunday against the Giants. He is one of our favorite fantasy players as well on our team that we share. And then Cooper Cup is yet again doubtful, probably going to miss his second game this week for the Rams. Not that they need him, to be honest. We're going to go ahead here into a week 7 recap. I'll read some of the scores off pretty quickly. The Broncos destroy the Cardinals on the road 45-10. Titans lose on a dumb call in London against the Chargers 19-20. Patriots cover the spread, winning 38-31 on the road in Chicago. Bills get walloped on the road in Indianapolis 37-5. Lions go on the road to Miami, beat them 32-21. Vikings unfortunately demolished the Jets, outplayed the Jets every quarter, every way you could describe it, 37-17. Panthers come back from behind in the fourth quarter to beat the Eagles 21-17. Browns lose on the road to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-26 in their fifth overtime game already this year through 7 weeks. It's ridiculous. Texas traveled to Jacksonville and beat the team that won the division last year 20-7. Saints traveled to Baltimore, win on the road 24-23. Rams destroyed the 49ers on the road 39-10. Cowboys lose on the road to the Redskins. Redskins pull out a victory 20-17. Chiefs destroyed the Bengals at home 45-10. And unfortunately, my Giants lost on the road 20-23 against the Atlanta Falcons, in which they scored a touchdown with 1 second left to go. So the game wasn't as close as the score shows. Lyle, with all that said, are any of these games a surprising outcome to you, or did you pretty much expect most of these outcomes? And even if you didn't, at least the score didn't sway you one way or the other.
I gotta say, I think the most surprising thing to me is that John Dorsey, GM of the Browns and former GM of the Chiefs, absolutely knows what he is doing. This Browns team has had a lot of almosts. Yeah, they could honestly be 4-2.
They're competing.
They're competing, and that's excellent for Browns fans. Next year, they have the potential to take a next step. But I think the biggest surprise would have to be the Texans Jaguars.
Yep.
Blake Bortles, my dude. All you have to be is okay. You have to be a Trent Dilfer. You have to be, I'm sorry,
he got benched.
An Elvis Gerback. You just have to not turn over the ball and let your defense just do what they do. But the defense got torn up. Bortles looked terrible. There's fighting in the locker rooms, and Ngakoue's trying to murder someone, nobody knows who, and is tossing Calais Campbell, who's a large man, onto the floor. The Jaguars are imploding. Luckily for the Jaguars, the AFC South is full of just meh teams, and they're only a game back. So I don't know what's happening with them, but they need to get it together because Jalen Ramsey's contract's coming up, Bouyer's contract's coming up, and Ngakoue's contract is coming up. Your window's closing. Get it together. Absolutely. Trade for Eli.
Hey, I mean, I can't trade Eli. I don't want to get into that.
He's getting all emotional.
Yeah, so 2 games were surprises to me, and I'll make them pretty quickly here. First game, and the reason why I'm bringing this up, because we're probably gonna either have an agreement here or have a heavily disagreement here. The Titans traveled 10 hours. Actually, I'm sorry, probably 12 hours, because a little bit more west than they are from New York. I know the flight to London from New York is about 8 to 9 hours. So let's say 10 hours. Okay. They traveled all the way to London to lose on a bonehead decision by head coach Mike Vrabel. Okay. I'm sorry. And I've called the Titans an underwhelming team last week when we made predictions, right? I took the Chargers this game -7 for one reason only. That's because the Titans stink. They stink, and they overachieved last year. They played well.
No, but if we remember from the NFL preview episode, I remember saying the Titans are garbage, and people going, but Rashard Matthews and this and that, this. Like, nah, they're going to be trash. And a couple of other people on this podcast, I'm not going to name names, like, Lyle, you're stupid. I'm like, nope. I knew they were trash. They were always going to be trash, and I'm enjoying their trashness.
Well, you know what? And Lyle just kind of foreshadowed here. For those of you listening to this podcast, thanks for sticking around. First and foremost, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at JNJTalksports. Next week, we actually are going to do a mid-season after the NFL trade line, trade deadline. We're going to do another episode in which we go back to our predictions from that very NFL preview episode that Lyle is so-called talking about, and we're going to call each other out, and we're going to say where we were right, where we were wrong. What are our thoughts for the rest of the season? So that episode is going to be pretty good, and it's just going to be NFL based. We'll have our very own special guest Matt Quagley come back on, who he did the NFL preview. He did the NFL fantasy football episode with us, but we're going to talk fantasy football as well, and we're going to talk about where we were right, where we were wrong. Like speaking of the Titans, Lyle was so wrong on Derrick Henry. I called him a bust. He called him a great breakout player. So, hey, we got each other with one there. But with that said, the Titans came out to play. They played good, and they were moving the ball up and down the field. They scored 3 points in the first quarter, 3 points in the second, 7 in the third, and then unfortunately they scored a touchdown in the fourth and didn't convert on the next point. Now, it's not a great game, but when you hold a high-powered Chargers offense, and yes, they didn't have Melvin Gordon, but you played a high-powered Chargers offense who is coming in 5-1. You're 3-3. It'll be a great win for your team. They score a touchdown now with what, 2 seconds left? 3, I don't know, like 10 seconds
Very,
left in the
very,
game.
very little time on the
Very little
clock.
time to do anything. And not only does Mike Vrabel decide to go for two, basically get the 2 points and just fly back home to Tennessee. He does it in an empty backfield formation with 5 wideouts. First of all, Tennessee doesn't even have one good wideout. So you're putting 5 of them out there? You're putting 5 wideouts out there. Because Corey Davis, Tajay Sharp, Tawan Taylor, those are good wide receivers that you want catching the ball for a 2-point conversion to give you the win in London after traveling 10 hours for the win against a Chargers defense and team that's pretty freaking good. And if I'm not mistaken, both you, Nick, and myself had predicted the Chargers do pretty well this freaking year. So what are you thinking, Mike Vrabel, to go 5 wide receiver set? And I know Derrick Henry sucks. Okay. And I know he's not what everyone thought he was going to be. But Lyle, please, I know I don't want you to speak from the mind and not from the heart. But if Derrick Henry was at least in the game, at least you would have had some linebackers playing a little bit closer to the line, and the Chargers wouldn't have had play pass all the way because at least they see, oh shoot, Derrick Henry's in the backfield. Yes, he stinks, but we still got to respect the fact that he's 250 pounds and all he needs is 2 yards to win this game.
Honestly, you don't even need to put Derrick Henry. You just need to have a body in that backfield.
Even better.
You can have a body in the backfield. One, you have Mariota, who's a mobile quarterback. 2, you have a receiver threat. 3. By putting no one in the backfield, you're basically saying QB spy and up everyone else.
Perfect. Most educated thing you ever said. QB spy, basically, and you're going to man up on everybody else. And by the way, even if you didn't have Derrick Henry and you had Deion Lewis, who's the scat back on this team, he had 13 carries for 91 yards that game. So he was balling. So even if you would have had him in the backfield, probably would have been more of a threat. The second game that was very surprising to me was the Eagles and Panthers game. Eagles were winning 17-zip going to the fourth quarter, and they got caught. They got scammed. Now, they got scammed. The Eagles got scammed by Scam Newton, but the Eagles got eagled. They basically did to themselves what they did to the Patriots, allowing a fourth quarter comeback to lose the game. This just goes by saying that both, like again, you, Nick, and myself all said that the Eagles were going to take a step back this year, and so far they've proven that. So, Lyle, give me some things. So we discussed week 7, the most surprising outcomes. We debated a little bit about the Tennessee game. Give me 3 takeaways from week 7, based off outcomes, based off the way players play, coaches coach, or whatever the case may be.
3 takeaways. The first one has to be Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, come on.
And the Chiefs as a whole, as a team, I'm sorry, but like, oh my goodness. This is one thing that I'm going to get annihilated for, but I wasn't the only one who said this on that in preview. But Patrick Mahomes is a stud, and John Dorsey put everyone to shame. He might know quarterbacks. He might know quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield might have been the greatest pick since Patrick Mahomes. So, my God, Patrick Mahomes has been a treat to watch. Moving on, another really interesting thing is how bad the NFC East is. I thought it was going to be a close division because they were all, above average teams. But
technically, it is a close division because of how bad everybody is.
Again, I thought they were going to be a close division because they had solid teams, but every single team has been just abysmal. And people tweeting about the Cowboys having the new big 3 with Amari Cooper, Zeke, and Dak Prescott. I can't even say Dak Prescott's a top 15 quarterback. I can't say Amari Cooper's a top 15 wide receiver. I can't say Zeke's a top 5 running back. So you have a big one with 2 other guys who are going to be flaying about, dropping balls, and holding onto the ball forever and getting annihilated. So everyone in Cowboys Nation needs to take a step back on that Amari Cooper trade. Number 2 is got to be the Jaguars implosion. I'm going to talk about their defense, though, because I know Justin's going to want to talk about something else with the Jaguars. Their defense, again, they've been good, but they have to understand that you cannot attack your offensive team for not doing well. You can only control you. Yes, encourage them, give them support, but don't be trying to assault your own players in the locker room. Like, I know fights happen in locker rooms. Again, I played lax. Fist fights happened. But right after a game, you don't want to try and murder your quarterback after the game. That's fine. And number 3.
I don't blame them.
Number 3, the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, I know I think they got destroyed this week
by
the Chiefs. But they're 4-3, and they're only half a game out of the division with the same team as they've had the past 50 years with Marv Lewis, Andy Dalton, and Burfisit murdering children on the streets. The AFC North makes absolutely no sense to me at all. The Steelers are terrible, and yet they're just putting up thousands of points and getting lucky. The Bengals are the most mediocre team in football and have 4 wins. The Ravens have developed into a football team again. Joe Flacco looks like a semblance of a quarterback, and the Browns are competitive. The AFC North is full of mediocre trash teams that are now, I think, a couple of them are punching above their weight. A couple of them are almost about to make the next step. And it's just, there's a lot to digest in that AFC North. And I just want to mention the fact I did not mention the Raiders once in this entire football segment, and I know I want to. Jon Gruden has already made $35,322 since we started recording this podcast, by the way.
And that was one of our biggest sponsors this year so far. Fun fact, actually, Lau, the Steelers were in 3rd place before Week 7. They had a bye in Week 7. Guess where they're ranked right now in the division after Week 7?
First.
So the Steelers gained 1st place in the AFC North without even playing a game in Week 7. That's because the Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens and the Browns all lost. So it's actually pretty funny here.
They won the bye week because Le'Veon Bell has shown them how to sit out a week. Like, they really took that to heart and sat out to the best of their abilities and won that week.
Speaking of that, so we all know what the Le'Veon Bell Steelers situation is, right? And I'm glad you brought that up because I actually had that written down on my side notes. I have 2 debates I was going to bring up to both you and Nick, and unfortunately Nick couldn't join us today. But I had 2 side debates that you guys weren't prepared for, just to get your thoughts on it and get like real intake on that. So Le'Veon Bell didn't show up again yesterday, right? And he needed to show up on Tuesday yesterday, October 23rd, in order to collect a paycheck worth $860,000 and be eligible to play in Week 8. Right? I think he didn't show up because he knows if he does show up and he signs that franchise tender, guess what the Steelers could do? They could trade him to basically any team that he wants. Now, if he shows up next week on Tuesday when the trade deadline is up, the Steelers are forced to put him on the roster, and he's forced to only play for the Steelers. Do you think it was a smart move or a dumb move to be made by Bell? Because at the end of the day, he could show up for the Steelers, collect his money, and they could just be like, you know what? We're just not going to play you. And teams are not going to be able to see what you're going to do. Or was it a smart move? And the Steelers are going to be like, you know what? You are going to leave us this year. You are a better running back than Connor. We're going to ride you out for the last 6-7 games of the season. We'll see where it goes.
I honestly have no idea. I mean, for Bell, he's doing what he needs to do for him, and for that reason, he's making all the right moves. But I don't know what the Steelers are going to do. I don't know if the locker room's going to be able to take Bell coming back. I don't know if he'll be accepted with open arms. I don't know what kind of value they can get for him because I guarantee you no one's going to drop a number 1 pick. So I just don't know who would be willing to give the most. How much is the most? And the Steelers would be like, maybe we should just play him and give him 400 carries in 10 weeks and see what happens.
Right. And actually, Juju Smith actually came out to the media and said that he bought 120 Mega $1 Million tickets just so that he could try to win, so that the Steelers could have enough money to bring Le'Veon Bell back. I actually thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, the skill players realize his worth. The receivers, especially, because again, James Conner's put in a good shift. Is he as good at Le'Veon Bell pass catching? No. Is he as good running? No. And a good Le'Veon Bell opens up lanes for angry Antonio Brown, who's having also another strange season, not on the field but off the field.
Underwhelming.
Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster. Well, I mean, he's been having some weird things going off the field. Juju Smith-Schuster, who would love to have the freedom of the play action, just streak down the sideline, and Bell opens up these passing lanes, but the Steelers are gonna mess it up. Ben Roethlisberger will be signed for another 30 years, and the Steelers will go off into irrelevance for a few years until Bill Cowher comes out of retirement, pulls a Gruden, and gets a 10-year, $3,000 billion contract.
I'm gonna steal that line from you, Lyle, and I'm gonna put it into a tweet when Le'Veon Bell reports back to the Steelers. You said, James Conner, you put in a good shift, but you're not at the same passing down back like Le'Veon Bell. I'm gonna steal that from you, just letting you know now. So when you see me tweet it out, don't be surprised.
Just quote me. Just quote me. Make sure you tag me at Lyle Style.
I can't promise that. I'll tag you. I can't put on quote unquote. I gotta take some credit for that.
Wow, we take credit for thievery? That's plagiarism, sir.
I'm the one that asked the question.
So then you say, I asked the question, and Lyle said this.
How about this? I tag the podcast. And let the fans listen to see who said it.
Okay, that's fine. I'm still going to claim I'm
only teasing you. So I'm going to get into my big surprise, my 3 things that I'm taking away here. We got a little sidetracked there, but I'm going to make it pretty quickly here. Like Lau foreshadowed, Blake Bortles, Blakey, big mistakey. You stink, as I've known since you played for UCF in college and got overdrafted in the NFL draft. You have not been a good quarterback since you entered this league, and I hate that people have hyped you up as a good fantasy football player, as a viable starter, someone you could take late in your draft and still succeed in as a team. And the fact that the Jaguars still think that you're the future, it's dumb. I mean, they gave you an extension last year, which, yes, it was for money purposes, but they still give you a year extension. You have no Fournette. You don't have that physical bruiser running back, that top 10 running back in your backfield because he's hurt. And look at what your production has been, Bortles.
Just get ready for Carlos Hyde this week.
It's been trash, and I'm pumping my brakes on Carlos Hyde. And that's all the big news there, too. Jaguars did acquire Carlos Hyde from the Browns for, I believe, a 4th round pick. You got benched, Bortles. And not only did you get benched for example, if Eli Manning gets benched, he's getting benched for Kyle Lauletta, a rookie quarterback, to see what we got of him. You got benched for Cody Kessler, the quarterback that couldn't win with the Browns, a quarterback that couldn't win in college. Cody Kessler. And not only did you get benched for Cody Kessler, but he came in and he did better than you. He was 21 for 30, 156 yards with a touchdown. He had a better QBR rating than you in that game. Blake Bortles, what I'm taking away from week 7 is that you confirm my theory that you are a big mistakey. Blake Bortles, you're a big mistakey. Next thing I want to talk about is the Bills. And the reason why I don't bring this up is because they got smacked by a Indianapolis Colts team that, yes, they do look a lot better than they did last year. But last year they didn't have Andrew Luck. Therefore, they looked a lot worse than they were. But you go on the road against a Colts team that has nobody else but Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton. No defense, no offensive line, no slot receivers. Marlon Mack tore you guys up for 126 yards on 19 carries and 1 touchdown. You guys score 5 points. You get smacked 37-5. I actually think Josh Allen is not going to be that good of a starter in the NFL. I think he'll be an above-average starter.
Oh, he didn't play. He's injured.
He didn't play. And look how bad the Bills still were. That's the point. The Bills, I stand by it. I said that they were going to be the worst team in the NFL this year. They surprised a few people by beating the Minnesota Vikings. I still think that they'll compete week in and week out. But that's as long as Josh Allen's your quarterback. So as long as he's out, as long as the rookie's out, the Bills are going to be trash, and I expect them to score less than 10 points every game while he's not quarterbacking. The third takeaway I had on my list before Sir Lyle took it away was Patrick Mahomes. But I'm going to go a different route here. The trade deadline in the NBA, in baseball, and in hockey, believe it or not, when the trade deadline is approaching, it's pretty active. A lot of teams are trading, trying to acquire bench players in basketball or little role players, utility players in baseball. And in hockey, you have a lot of teams that sell high. They sell their best players, their goalies, their top goal scorers to teams that are trying to win now mode. You barely see trades in the trade deadline during the NFL season, and rightfully so, because you can make a trade for a player in week 9, but they're not playing for you full speed until week 12 because they need to get adjusted to the offense or they need to learn the playbook. For instance, Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon's been with the Patriots for 3 weeks, and he hasn't really clicked until this past week. So it takes a while to adjust when you're traded from an NFL team to an NFL team. Unless you're a defensive player, then it's a little bit more easy to adjust, I would say. But this season so far, there's been a lot of trades. And yes, it's because, unfortunately, the Giants and the Raiders, for Lyle, are both in rebuild mode. Now, the Raiders traded Amari Cooper for a first-round pick to the Cowboys. As we all know, they traded Khalil Mack in the beginning of the season. They're most likely, I think, going to trade at least 1 or 2 more times before the trade deadline. And I wouldn't be surprised if Derek Carr is traded as well. Now, the Giants had traded Damon Snacks Harrison, defensive tackle, to the Detroit Lions for a 5th-round pick. They also traded Eli Apple, former first-round pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, to the Saints for a 4th and a 7th. You also had the Jets signing Rashard Matthews. So with all that said, I think this next week here, what I took away from week 7 is that there are a lot of teams out there that need to make moves, and I think they're going to. So Lyle, after the games on Sunday, after Monday Night Football on Monday, hold your hat, because there's going to be a lot of trades, a lot of signings, and a lot of cuts that are going to be happening in the NFL. And I think it'll be the most exciting NFL trade deadline week the NFL has ever seen. Do you agree or disagree with me on that?
I think we have the potential for something very interesting. If
It's definitely going to be a strong start.
It's going to be the most interesting if Le'Veon Bell moves. He's the one superstar that I think has the high potential of moving.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, so like I said, Le'Veon Bell didn't report on Tuesday, so he's not going to report till next week when the trade deadline's up. I think that's his motive there. We're going to move on here to the New York football teams here. We'll start off with the New York Jets. We have some news with the Jets. Jets lose Bilal Powell to a neck injury for the year. Todd Bowles has come out and said, quote unquote, that this may be a career-ending injury. Now, from my knowledge, Lyle, I did some research. It's the same injury that David Wilson had, former running back for the Giants, who had a lot of promise, just like Bilal Powell always had. And his career came to an end. Now, my prayers are out to Bilal Powell. I actually like Bilal Powell. I felt like he always got the short end of the stick and never got the full workload that he deserved as a running back. I just hope that he heals and recovers to the point where he could continue to live his life the way he can, even if that means not playing football no more.
Yeah, again, he's pushing 30. He's pushing 30, and Bilal Powell, it's if he goes, he goes. Yes, I do understand that, some people thought he was an every down back. He was never an every down back, but he was an essential part of the New York Jets football team, and he's been a joy to watch. So if this is the end, get healthy. We'll see you when you come back. We cheer you on as just a bystander. Next, the Jets also released Terrell Pryor due to a groin injury. We need receiver help. We are banged up on receiver. We needed someone, so we cut Terrell Pryor. We added someone from our practice squad, and then we signed doo-doo bags, Rashard Matthews.
You're right.
Tennessee couldn't find a way to use him, and they have, as you said,
they can't use any of their receivers.
They have Tajay Sharp as their number 1 receiver. I'm just saying, hopefully Rashard Matthews shows somewhat of the talent that he possessed coming out of college. I don't hate the signing. I just think he's doo-doo bags, but it's not like we need him to be, Randy Moss circa Patriots years. But speaking on the Jets, the Jets did lose to a very good Vikings team, 37-17. A lot of issues, injuries in the secondary. We got outplayed. Darnold didn't look too good. He looked uncomfortable in the cold weather, which is something he'll have to get over at some point. The biggest thing with Darnold, and this is something that every sports fan in the modern era has a problem with, we're going to have to be patient. Every rookie, especially quarterback, deserves 3 years, and then you grade him. So he's going to have his good games. He's going to have his bad games, especially in his first year, especially with an experienced team like Minnesota is. And this was a bad game. We knew we weren't making the playoffs this year. We had an outside shot. We knew we weren't winning the division this year. This is Darnold's warm-up year. This is his, not necessarily his redshirt year, but this is his let me see what the NFL is all about year. So again, if he throws one game where he throws 300 yards, 3 TDs, amazing. One game, then he goes 150 yards with 5 picks. Oh well. He has 3 years. That third year is when he should be putting it all together, and we grade him on that. So Jets fans, take a breath. He's allowed to have some bad games. We're not winning the Super Bowl this year. As much as I want to dream and believe it, we're not winning the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, and but this was another game in which, yes, I know you're versing a Vikings defense, but the Vikings defense has been very underwhelming this year. Plus, you're at home, and you're coming off back-to-back games in which you scored 30 plus points.
I want to point something out there. When I said this last week, y'all jumped to me. It's like, oh, the Vikings defense is great. Oh my God, the Vikings defense is great. Both you and Nick jumped down my throat. Yes.
I mean, I bet on the Jets this week. I bet on them against the Vikings. So I honestly felt like they were going to put up some points.
Again, the Vikings defense is not what it was last year. As much as Justin and Nick yelled at me last week, right now Justin's being a little bit of a fraud. But again, the Vikings are experienced, though. They have Xavier Rhodes, and you're going up against a rookie quarterback, and this defensive unit has been together. They're going to terrorize a rookie. We couldn't get our run game going. These are things that happen with rookie quarterbacks. These are things that happen with young teams.
Trash has beats, bro. The thing came apart. You see it?
Yeah, let me know when you're ready.
It was stuck in my ear.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready. Just count me down and I'll wrap up my point. Also, when you have injuries to your secondary, Marcus May, Tremaine Johnson, Buster Screen, you're going to have some problems defending the Thielens and the Diggs of the world because you only have one starting corner. And again, the corner from Tulane, he's put in a good shift. He's doing okay, but he's a rookie, and he's going to get torched by Thielen or whatever you want to pronounce it, who just broke a record for or tied a record for most consecutive 100-yard games. So it is what it is. The Jets are who they are this year. They are who they thought we were. And we're going to have to, again, this is going to be a season of ups and downs. Next year, hopefully, is better. And the third year, we put it all together and make that deep run to the promised land where the Jets win the Super Bowl and I run naked through Brooklyn with 2 bottles of Dom P and just throwing them everywhere and probably getting arrested for public indecency.
And I will be following him, not naked, not with Dom P in my hand, but with a camera, just cheering him on. And I may have a drink subtly on the side, but that's without saying. We're going to move over here to the Giants. So we have some news with the Giants. I mentioned it briefly before. The Giants are...
Sorry. Remember when everyone's like the Giants are really good this year? Because I don't.
Yeah, I remember when Dave Gettleman put all his eggs in one basket with Eli Manning. I do remember that. The Giants are officially in rebuild mode. They trade Eli Apple for a 4th and 7th round pick to the New Orleans Saints. They trade Snacks Harrison for a 5th round pick to Detroit. Lyle, before I ask you this question I have on the sheet here, did the Giants get at least fair value for both Eli Apple and Snacks Harrison?
Eli Apple, I think that's fair enough. Again, Eli Apple was he was a serviceable cornerback. You can't call him good. You can't call him terrible. He had his bad. He had his good. He was serviceable. Again, they drafted him in the first round, but sometimes first rounders aren't too great. He's not first round worthy. He's not second round. Maybe you could have pulled a third, but I guess the Giants wanted more picks instead of a higher pick.
I
So
would
I
have
think
I would have taken a third over the fourth and the seventh.
I don't know. I think a fourth and a seventh is fair. Fifth for Snacks though. Snacks is one of the best interior linemen in terms of run stopping in the league. I think that they kind of got fleeced a little bit. I know they're probably trying to shed salary, maybe go after some free agents. And Snacks does have a degenerative knee issue, which hasn't come up yet, but it's always a concern. So yes, there were issues, but a fifth for one of the best run-stopping defensive tackles in the league. I think they could have gotten a little bit more value, but if you're blowing up a team, you're just trying to stockpile as much as you can.
So here's what I have to say about the Snacks Harrison trade. I think they could have maybe gotten a fourth. I think a third is way too high, and I think a sixth is way too low. So you're in between somewhere a fourth and a fifth, but I think you lean more towards a fourth round pick.
But I think you could have gotten like a fourth and a seventh, like you did for Eli Apple.
But maybe a seventh for like a next year, not for the current year. And I would have taken something along those terms. I would even have taken a fifth this year and like a seventh for next year. But I do think we could have gotten a little bit more for Snack Harrison. But at the same time, it's such a borderline because you're not going to give up more than a fourth for him, but you're not going to take less than a fifth. So it's kind of borderline. Who do you think, now, Lyle, you were making fun of me and the Giants before the podcast in our group chat, saying that we have a lot of money invested in some players that may not, help us in the future. But with that said, regardless of that money being invested in certain positions like the wide receiver position in OBJ, like the defensive end position, outside linebacker position in Olivia Vernon, who do you think is the next Giant to be traded, if anyone at all?
So, I mean, the first people I look at are Janoris Jenkins and Olivier Vernon. Janoris Jenkins, 29-year-old cornerback. His cap hit the next 2 years is going to be $14,750,000. He's signed through 2020. Olivier Vernon also signed through 2020. His cap hit is almost $20 million. Those are huge chunks for aging players that, if you're rebuilding a team, it's going to be hard to sign those younger free agents because they're eating so much cap space. Again, you have one thing that the Giants have going for them. You have your skill players set. You have Odell locked in for another 4 or 5 years. Sterling Shepard has 3 more years. I think 3 more years on his rookie deal. Saquon, after this year, has 4 more years on his rookie deal. Ingram's got a couple more years on his rookie deal. You have your skill players set, but you're going to need to upgrade the linebacking core, which has been abysmal this season.
Which we have good young linebackers, which we'll probably see how they develop throughout the rest of this year.
You gotta hope so. You're gonna need pass rushing because again, Olivier Veron is getting up there. You're not gonna want to pay him $20 million after 2020. But again, if there's a team that's on the cusp that need that pass rusher, or need that semi shutdown corner, you try and offload the salaries of Vernon and Jenkins because you are doing a hard reboot. The moves of Eli Apple and Damian Harrison, who are satisfactory players, are signs of a hard reboot. And those are the 2 players I think you should look into trade next. And honestly, and I know you're going to hate what I'm about to say, if you're a team that's going through a hard reboot, the last thing you need is a diva, dramatic playmaker in Odell. Because Odell's not going to get what he wants. He's not going to get wins in the next couple of years. If you can trade Odell, now's the time. Because you could trade him high and get pieces for the future. Because he's going to be a problem.
I don't see any signs of that happening yet.
No, neither do I. I'm just saying.
In the near future, I don't see any signs of that happening at all.
I don't see any signs of that happening either, but I'm just saying, if somebody whispers in my ear, hey, I got a first and a second for you, I listen.
Okay. How long did the Giants wait to pull the trigger on Eli?
This is his victory lap.
Yeah,
you don't pull it. You're 1-6. If you were going to pull the trigger, it would have been 2 weeks ago.
No, so I do think if the Giants are about 2-8 or 3-7 in week 10, I think the letter starts in like week 11, week 12. You have to see what you have in him, because if he comes in and he does something crazy, those last 5-6 weeks, Lyle, do you even waste that first or second overall pick for a quarterback? No, you don't. You get that lineman that you need for that cheap price in which you're talking about, or that pass rusher, or that linebacker. So you have absolutely need to see what you have in Law Letter there. Now, Nick is not here today, but we're gonna go ahead here and still do our picks.
Oh wait,
Maybe
how did we do last week?
so. Last week I have the numbers here. We all finished 3-2. We all finished 3-2. My two games that I missed on, which we all missed on, was the Chargers covering the -7 against the Titans, which I already vented about that enough earlier today. Um, Both Nick and I missed on the Bears +2.5 at
Told you,
home against the Patriots.
got him.
But Lyle, you missed on the Jets
Yeah.
+3.5 at home against the Vikings. So we all go 3-2 in that week of 7 football. So wow, let's go, buddy. We could go back and forth here with these first 5 picks. I could probably text Nick personally and ask him real quickly what his
We're going
picks
to
are.
text him so he stays within the rankings with us.
Exactly. So first game I want to ask you, Baltimore is traveling to Carolina. This game is a pick 'em. Who do you got?
Carolina, they're home.
Yeah, I love Carolina this game. I think they're coming off a big victory against the Eagles on the road. It's a pick 'em game. All they have to do, they can win by half a point for all I care. They can even tie it. It's not going to be a loss. I'm taking Carolina as well. San Francisco is traveling to Arizona. This is also a pick 'em game. Lau, who do you got?
This is also two trash teams being trash. Give me a second. I need to flip a coin.
I'm going to go with San Francisco here since you picked this last time. San Francisco is actually scoring. They scored against the Rams. They scored the previous week against the Green Bay Packers. CJ Beathard is not as bad as a quarterback of people projecting him to be. I'll take San Francisco here, pick them against Arizona.
I'm going to take Arizona because I'm praying to the gods, old and new, that they let David Johnson do David Johnson things and not run him up the middle 500 times.
Well, with a new offensive coordinator, that may be the way to go.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Arizona.
So next up here, we got Green Bay traveling to Los Angeles to versus the Rams. The Rams are home favorites, -10.5 against Aaron Rodgers-led Packers. Who do you got, Lyle?
So I got to take the Rams. Again, the Packers are devoid of talent outside of Aaron Rodgers. They've proved it all season. The Rams are flowing in every direction with talent. Yeah, I'm taking the Rams at 10.5. It's going to be a bloody massacre.
I can't do that. I'm going Green Bay +10.5. 10.5 is way too big. And
you're making the smart move, but I'm making the right move.
And it's 10.5 now, Lyle. It actually may go up. And if it goes up, I'm gonna say something. I don't care if it goes up to 11 or 12. As long as Green Bay covers, I'm giving myself a check mark.
Just for the record, I'm picking it at today's odds. We're taking the record at today's odds.
Hey, we could go on record on Sunday and say if the odds change, we could go ahead and change our picks. But I'm letting you know right now.
What I'm saying is we're locking in our picks at the odds they are now. So yes. If Carolina becomes a +1.
But it is Wednesday. For all we know, Aaron Rodgers tears his ACL tomorrow. And that's not fair.
No, but it's still I still got it at a 10.5. That's how betting works, bro. Betting works, bro.
So I'm taking the Packers +10.5 here. Rodgers is too good of a quarterback. You're getting Geronimo Allison back. You're getting Randall Cobb back. There's no Cooper Kupp for the Rams. They only have 2 receivers in which the Green Bay Packers have to guard. I would let the receivers eat us up because you know what? Gurley is the guy that you have to stop on that offense. And if the Packers could somehow just contain him, I think they can come within 10 points. So
it's worked out so far for every other team that's played him.
I'm taking Green Bay there. Here's a very difficult one here, Lyle. Got the New Orleans Saints traveling to Minnesota. A rematch of the NFC semifinals matchup between the Saints and the Minnesota, when Diggs caught that 50-yard bomb with 1 second left to score against the Saints. Minnesota's -1 at home. Who do you got?
Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. They're gonna win and give me another victory. when the Saints win by 17. But yes, I'm taking the Saints.
I am taking Minnesota, and this is not even easy. I'm gonna bet so heavy on this game because I'm so confident that they're gonna win. Kirk Cousins is in the words of Clyde for the New York Knicks. Kirk Cousins is percolating right now. He is just diamond that ball up. Nobody's holding Thielen. Nobody's holding Diggs on that defense for the Saints. Rhodes, if he doesn't play, then I may second guess my pick on this game. But the fact that Rhodes is considered to be playing this game, he's going to lock up Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith, Cameron Meredith, Kamara Ingram. There's not going to be enough against this Minnesota defense. Everson Griffin is coming back this week after a leave with his family. That's a big add right there to that Minnesota defense who led them in sacks last year. So Minnesota -1. It's basically a pick 'em game. I'll take Minnesota -1 easily.
All right.
Last game of the week, Lyle. New England's traveling to Buffalo. Your alma mater. They're -14 away traveling to Buffalo. Buffalo's home. Who do you got?
I have to take Buffalo +14.
Ooh.
Here's why. No matter who you are, if there's one thing you know, the AFC East will play the Patriots hard. No Gronk. The Buffalo defense is the New England defense is meh. I do see New England winning. I just think Buffalo keeps it surprisingly close. I'd take Buffalo at +14.
I'm taking New England -14. Well, we went opposite on 4 picks here. So the last 4 picks we went opposite. So someone's going to have a horrible record at the ending of this.
Well, when LA wins by 11 and then NOLA wins by 50, I'm going to be laughing all the way.
All right, well, I'm taking New England -14. I think they easily destroy Buffalo as long as Josh Allen's not playing, which he is definitely not playing. Now, we're going to get into a very special segment here before we get into our last topic. It's called Lyle Goes Wild. Lyle, take it away.
Yeah, so this edition of Lyle Goes Wild goes out to one of my favorite and least favorite items in sports. It's sports beefs. What's a sports beef? It's two guys talking trash, and that trash talk leads to more trash talk, maybe some hands, maybe some personal digs. Now, there's good sports beef, and there's bad sports beef. A good sports beef, Rajon Rondo and CP3. This is one of my favorite kinds of sports beefs because, Brandon Ingram came in hard, pushed hard into the ground. CP3 got in Rondo's, got into a space. Rondo, backing up for his team, and got in his space. There's some saliva came out of Rondo's mouth, whether it was intentional or it was just a mouth guard. Hit CP3. CP3 just swung. Oh no, sorry. Put his hands in his, Rondo's face and his eye. And if Rondo's doing that accidentally, that is an affront. And Rondo just swung. And again, I'm glad it didn't escalate further because again, violence is never the answer. But that Rondo CP3 beef, that's what we call good sports beef. Another good sports beef, Andre Drummond and Joel Embiid. Now, Joel Embiid flopped. He flopped hard, got the T, got it for his team. Joel Embiid's an excellent villain. And Andre Drummond and Joel Embiid have been, sending snide remarks at each other, but they play hard. It doesn't land in, throwing punches or it's a fun sports beef. Let me give you an example of a terrible sports beef. Manny Machado and the Brewers. That's an awful sports beef because when you play dirty and you hurt someone and then you act with righteous indignation and get into the faces of the other team, just accept you're wrong. That's not a beef worth having because you are not, Joel Embiid villain is a comical villain. It's a villain you can appreciate because he's doing whimsical things and helping his team win. Manny Machado's villainy is, it's the difference between comic book villainy and ISIS villainy. Manny Machado is ISIS villainy. You can't get behind that. You can't look at that. That's terrible for the sport. And that's the kind of beef that will erupt into some nasty, nasty items. Whereas the Rajon Rondo beef, you're having CP3 was a bad teammate. No, Rajon Rondo was a bad teammate. They threw their little punches. They threw their little thing. It didn't escalate because enough cool heads prevailed. But that's going to be a fun beef to watch throughout the season because the Lakers and the Rockets are going to play again. But if it escalates to Ron Artest Rumble in the Jungle, That's bad sports beef. That's not the beef we need right now. If you want to look at the perfect sport for sports beef, hockey. Hockey is a perfect sport for sports beef. They throw down. They, a nice hit. There's, some dirty players, but, they throw down. They take care of it. They take care of it on the ice, and then it's done. They talk a little smack here and there, but they don't go into the stands. They don't, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It's clean sports beef. So sports beefs, if you're going to start a sports beef, whether it be in your rec league, whether it be in your, in your company league, keep it to trash talking. If there's a little heated conversation, sure, but don't injure someone. Don't escalate to the point where it's out of control. Keep it fun with sports beefs. That's how it goes wild.
Ooh, and that was another awesome segment of Loud Goes Wild. Speaking of sports beef and talking trash and work leagues and stuff like that, it's kind of funny, Loud. The fantasy football league in which we're in, right? My team name is called I've Got a Thielen because I have Adam Thielen on my team. I versed two of my coworkers last week, and I went up to both of them, and I said the same corny line. I've got a Thielen that I'm gonna quote unquote basically beat you this week, right? So I versed a team called Beast Mode, and I said, I've got a Thielen that my team is gonna go Beast Mode on you. And then I versed a team this past week. Her team name was Cuckoo for Coconuts or whatever her team is named, and I said, I got a Thielen that my team is gonna go Cuckoo this week. So I definitely agree with you on that. I do love sports beef, though. I think especially in baseball, sometimes it's not expected. So, I love definitely seeing some sports beef. We're gonna move over here to our last topic of the night, and we'll probably breeze through this pretty quickly since Lyle touched based on it just a bit. We have the NBA here. We're only about 3 to 4 games through. We do have some teams thus far, Lyle, that do look like serious contenders. And I don't mean serious contenders, but teams that are going to be, or at least look better, or at least are looking better, in which we weren't expecting in the beginning of the season. Do you have a team that you want to talk about in which probably looks better than what we expected to come into the season?
Yeah, I want to talk about the Nuggets. Nuggets were going to be a good team. They were going to be a fun team. But if Gary Harris, Jamal Murray, Will Barton, Jokic, if they play at this high level for a majority of the season, they can threaten any team because they have the shooters and they have something that at the moment no other team has. And basically, they have the best playmaking center in the league. He has better vision than almost any other center. And when you have a team of shooters like Gary Harris, the sky's the limit because you throw into the paint. You have Jokic backing down some scrub. You have to double team him. He can kick it out to anywhere. He just sees it. He has eyes in the back of his head. The Nuggets, if they can keep this up again, I don't expect them to go undefeated. That would be preposterous. But the Nuggets look very threatening. Can they beat the Warriors? But I think they might cause some problems, barring injuries, barring anything crazy. The West is going to be fun. I think the West might be a little bit more wide open than we think.
Yeah, and I'm going to take a similar team with you, and that's going to be the Detroit Pistons. And I mean similar in the sense that they were very underwhelming last year, both teams not making the playoffs and just missing it out. But they're both doing very well. Now the Pistons are 3-0 so far. They haven't really beaten impressive teams aside from the 76ers yesterday, beating them 133-132 on an and one play by Blake Griffin against Joel Embiid on the final play of the game in overtime. They beat the Chicago Bulls 118-116 on the road, and then they beat the Brooklyn Nets 103-100 at home. Now, Blake Griffin, wow, I mean, and the Clippers have built around their team for Blake Griffin for years, and Blake Griffin has done well. They brought in Chris Paul. They had a quote-unquote elite center in DeAndre Jordan who didn't score, couldn't make free throws, but all he did was just block shots and grab boards. Blake Griffin has been with the Detroit Pistons now for pretty much a year. You can say a whole half a season. He got traded last year to them. He has a better center, in my opinion, in Andre Drummond. He's playing with two guards in Caldwell Pope and Reggie Jackson, who have tremendous range on the court and could make the shot from 3-point range, as well as dish out the ball, play defense, and grab rebounds. And then Reggie Bullock, who has been very impressive this year in the two games that he's played because he missed game one, scoring 15 and 17 points in back-to-back games, averaging 6 rebounds with a couple of steals and a couple of assists. Now, Detroit not only has the starting five to compete, but they have the depth on that team. And if Blake Griffin continues to do what he's doing, averaging in 38 minutes, but I'm rounding up here, 38 minutes. So far in the first 3 games of the season, he's shooting 53%, 61% from 3-point range, in which last game against the Sixers, he went 5 for 10. So if Blake Griffin is adding a 3-point shot to his game, oh man, be on the lookout. He's averaging 11 rebounds. He's averaging 6 assists. He's averaging 0.7 blocks. Basically, he got 2 blocks in 3 games. So he's getting his block game up. And even though this next number I'm going to say is kind of, influctuated because of the fact that he scored 50 points yesterday against the Sixers, he's averaging 36 points per game. If Blake Griffin could keep those numbers up, and I know the 36 points per game is not going to be consistent, but the blocks, rebounds, and assists are damn sure going to be. You basically have another Nikola Jokic here, which is why I said you have a similar team in which I'm picking. Blake Griffin is going to continue to ball out. He has Andre Drummond, who's a good center in the NBA. You have shooters on the outside, like you said. You got Reggie Jackson and Caldwell Pope, who are going to lock up on the defensive side of the ball as long as they stay healthy. This Detroit Pistons team is going to surprise a lot of teams this year. I think they're this year's Indiana Pacers, in which they get a decent seed in the East where teams didn't really expect them to do so.
I mean, they're a very cute East Conference team.
Yeah.
They're a very cute Eastern Conference team.
Very cute. Very cute. All right, cool. All right. All right. So we talked about 2 teams. You talked about Denver. I talked about Detroit. 2 teams. And listen, it's very early for this. So that's not much to talk about here in the NBA season thus far. We're gonna get into the bigger conversations a little bit later on. But based off what you've seen in the first 3 games of the season, Lyle, give me a team in which you thought was going to be a contender. And just because you think that they haven't shown any signs of being a contender this year doesn't mean they're out of it. But as of right now, their fans may be panicking just a bit.
Well, if we're talking about fan panic, there's really only one team I can really mention on that. That's the 76ers.
Ooh.
They don't look very good. They don't look very cohesive. It's more or less the same team as last year. Fultz looks like meh. Simmons still really hasn't added a jump stop. Embiid's doing Embiid things. He's, again, top 5 center in the league. But
top 3.
Top 3, maybe. Well, depends. Depends on where you put certain people. But they haven't improved on last year. They look mediocre. And if I was a Sixers fan with the lack of improvements over the offseason, I'd be a little worried that I'm going to see a little bit of regression this year. That's my team.
Well, they've looked mediocre, but they're still 2-2, so I wouldn't be too stressed about that. The team I'm going to talk about here, and it's the OKC Thunder. Now, I know Westbrook has not played yet this season, and I know that he's not going to play the first 2, 3, maybe even the first month of the season. But I'm concerned right now. You're 0-3. You lost game 1 against the Warriors at Oakland. 100-108, which was, you know what? You didn't have Russell Westbrook. Maybe you could have won that game had he been there. But then you travel to LA, which is not that far of a travel from Oakland, and you lose to the Clippers. You lose to the Clippers 108-92. Then you travel back home to versus Sacramento, a Sacramento Kings team in which I can't even name one player off the top of my head. Aside
Malvin,
Buddy Hield.
Bagley, there's Hield, there's Labossiere. Come on, get it together, bro.
Okay. Not enough players to lose by 11 points at home against that team. Now, Paul George is doing everything he can to lead this team to victory. But if this is as bad as OKC is going to be without Westbrook, I can't see them being that crazy much better with him. I mean,
I don't know.
they'll make the playoffs. They'll make the playoffs. They'll be a fifth and sixth seed, but they brought back Paul George thinking that the combination of the two was going to be that much elite. And I'm sorry, this is the second year in a row in which Westbrook has this arthroscopic knee cleaning of the knee, whatever the case may be, where he misses the first one. This is the second year in a row, Lyle. That means all it takes is a swell knee for Russell Westbrook, and he's out. And he's reminding me a lot of Wade. Because Wade had these same issues in which he kept every year, will miss the first month or two with the knee surgery, cleaning it out. And then throughout the season, what did he deal with? Swollen knees. And if the Thunder are going to play this bad without Westbrook, I expect him, even when he does come back, to still miss a handful of games. So I don't expect this Thunder team, who I thought will be competing for a top 4, top 5 seed in the West, to be even that close as expected.
It's tough for me to ring the alarm bells because you have Schroeder and Patterson. Schroeder and Robertson. Robertson's coming back from an injury last year. He's still getting back in the team. Schroeder's learning how to work with this team. There's still some gelling issues that are going on. I get what you're saying, but I'm not like emergency, because I think this is kind of like a Lakers scenario. We have so many new pieces. You're not ringing those alarm bells.
So
for me, that's okay. For me.
You're an OKC fan and you're a Lakers fan. Where are you more alarming to?
My alarm's more towards OKC for sure.
And that's why I'm pointing, because if there's
you put a gun to my head.
And if there's any more concerning team other than OKC in the West, it's the Lakers, which is why I feel OKC is a team that I thought would be a contender, in which they're not. We're gonna talk about so far, yes, and like I said, there's only been 3 to 4 games in the season so far. There's only so much we could talk about. I want to talk about some impressive teams so far this season. Like I mentioned earlier, we have the Pistons, who are 3-0. You have the Toronto Raptors, who are 5-0. The Milwaukee Bucks are 3-0. That's the East. And in the West, you have the Nuggets, like Lyle mentioned, 4-0. And Lyle's boys, the Pelicans, 3-0.
Yo, Pelicans, oh my God.
Lyle, of these 5 undefeated teams, which team do you think can keep it up throughout the rest of the season? It doesn't have to be the obvious answer. Yeah, I think we could sweep that Toronto's going to continue to be this good.
Yeah.
Because Kawhi Leonard does make that team that much better.
I mean, out of the other 4, it's got to be the Pelicans. But here's why. For all this smack that David Stern talked about the GM of the Pelicans when if you saw some tweets about that today, the Pelicans finally put together a roster that Anthony Davis can thrive in. They finally got it together. And that's the thing. They always had short-term plans. And David Stern was a little bit right in his criticism of the GM because, again, he was the GM over at the Clippers, when the league owned the Clippers and they tried to trade Chris Paul. But then, he's got together again. He put it together. Mirotic looks like the perfect foil for Anthony Davis. He's that stretch for Julius Randle's starting to show what he can do. Drew Holiday's doing Drew Holiday things. Elfrid Payton, finally has the freedom to express himself.
Great last year for Elfrid Payton, by the way.
Yeah. This looks like a team, and they are the fastest paced team again in the league, and they have a lot of people. Again, this is a team that can move the ball. Holiday and Payton don't wait for no man, and Davis can still run the floor. Again, you got to be careful with Davis because he does get those 5 to 10 games where he disappears due to injury, so you got to watch his minutes. But this is the Pelicans, I think, have a little bit more staying power than the Nuggets simply because they took the step into the playoffs last year. This is their next step for progression.
Awesome. Love it. And I agree with you there, so I'm not going to add much to that. So I want to go into the lower end teams, right? So we have, first of all, this is such a big, this is a capitalized LOL or a capitalized FAO, but the Cavaliers are 0-4. And if you remember, Tristan Thompson, he said, quote unquote, we're the team to beat in the East because we made it to the finals, which, yes, you are the team to beat, but you're not the team to beat because you don't have LeBron no more and you're irrelevant. They're 0-4, okay? The Bulls are 1-3. Our New York Knicks on 1-4, but I'm not really including them into this conversation because they're in rebuild mode without Porzingis.
And they've kept everything close. We have
Lakers,
not
yes,
been blown out until tonight, where we got blown out tonight by like 50. But
Lakers are 0-3. The Thunder on 0-3. Okay, between those four teams that I mentioned, Bulls, Cavaliers, Lakers. I'm sorry. Wizards are 1-2. So Wizards are 1-2. Cavaliers are 0-4. Lakers are 0-3. Thunder are 0-3. These are four teams in which we're all expected to make the playoffs this year. Between these four teams, which team do you think turns it around quicker, smoother, better than the other three?
Oh, the team that turns around is the Lakers. I'm sorry, like it's the LeBron James effect.
Right.
He's going to eventually meld with his people. If you watch LeBron, he's throwing balls that would normally go to where JR would be or where to Tris would be because he still has that muscle memory. Once the rest of the Laker team gets on the same page as him, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Yeah.
They're going to start winning games. Yeah, the Lakers are going to turn around the quickest.
And I want to keep it with the Lakers here. Let's transition that, right? So on Saturday, October 20th, the Rockets traveled to LA to verse the Lakers, in which they won 124-115. But that's not the headline. That's not the story of that game. What was it? The second quarter? No, the third quarter, in which Chris Paul claimed, quote unquote, said that Rajon Rondo spit in his face, which led him to put his fingers in Rondo's face. Because Rondo then led with a left-handed punch to Chris Paul's face. A few more punches were thrown between them after that. And then Brandon Ingram came in from 20 feet, flying in, and threw a haymaker at Chris Paul. Now, Brandon Ingram was awarded a 4-game suspension. Rondo was 3. Chris Paul was 2. Let's start with the suspensions first, Lyle. Was that all fair?
No, Chris Paul should have had 3, same as Rondo. Ingram definitely should have had more because his was a cheap shot flying in from the back. His was, again, what Brandon Ingram did at the end of that fight. Again, what the whole thing started with Brandon Ingram pushing James Harden.
Correct.
Pushing James Harden. That's how the whole thing started. That's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but, whatever. It's not over the line. 2 guys beefing, getting in each other's face, maybe throwing a punch here or there. Again, as I said in my log as well, reasonable sports beef. Sucker punching someone from the back of the head, that's an escalation that causes some serious danger. Brandon Ingram deserved every game. I think Chris Paul deserved one more.
And I think if you think Chris Paul deserved one more, I think Brandon Ingram deserved more than what he got as well. So I bring this part up because, and I want to just go over really quickly. It's pretty funny. I was listening to Wingo and Golick in the morning, the day after this fight happened on Monday, right? Well, not the day after, but the Monday after, following that they go on the show. They're on from 6 to 9 on ESPN Radio.
They're not as good as us, but they're cute. They try.
Yeah, they're good. They're pretty good. They're not as good as us, but they're pretty good. And
they try.
And Mike Golick, a former NFL player, said he was disappointed in players like LeBron, Melo, James Harden, because when a brawl like that happens, you don't go ahead and grab your own guy. Because when you grab your own guy, guess what happens? They get sucker punched because they can't defend themselves because you're holding their hands back. He goes, the first thing you need to do is turn around and grab the closest opposite teammate and grab them and push them aside or start swinging at them. Otherwise, you're getting hit or your teammate's getting hit. And I know he meant it and he was trying to be honest about it, but it was just so funny hearing that because
that's what they do in hockey. They do that in hockey.
If you think about it, it's so true though.
That's exactly what they do in hockey. They lock up one of the other players. The goalies hug it out. Like that's what they do in hockey. In basketball, I mean, again, LeBron hugged Chris Paul out of there,
which is fine. We accept that. But Melo was like trying to hold back. Which Melo was the one holding back Chris Paul, and Chris Paul was the one that ended up getting laced by Brandon Ingram.
And then Brandon Ingram was talking smack to Melo, and I hope he was saying, "You wasted Nick's time and money. You wasted Lyle's time and money. That Q's championship will only get so far with Lyle, and he still loves you for it, but you're poop."
Really quickly here, Lyle. Before we close this episode out. You went to the Knicks and Nets game on Friday.
Indeed, with Nicholas.
With the co-host Nick on Friday, October 19th. I was supposed to be there with you guys. I had to work, unfortunately. But with that said, the Knicks are 1-3. The Brooklyn Nets are 2-2. What
One
are
and
your thoughts
four.
on both? What are your thoughts? Well, one and
It's
four
yeah.
now. What are your thoughts on both teams so far? Now, I already came out and clearly said that I do think the Nets are going to finish higher than the Knicks this season, but the Knicks have not lost. Aside from today, they have not lost any blowout games so far.
So one thing about the Nets is I don't think they're well coached. I think their coaching is going to be their downfall. The Knicks were crushing them. Firstly, they were crushing the Knicks on the pick and roll repetitively. They stopped doing that in the second half. Also, in the second half, they stopped doubling Cantor in the blocks, and Cantor ate in that second half. I think the coaching let them down. Again, they have some individual talent in deload. Levert's a natural scorer. Dinwiddie's okay. And they have some talent, but I think the coach is going to let them down. And also, the game wasn't a good basketball game. It was a little sloppy. What I like from the Knicks is, again, they press the ball, they play hard defense. The issue, though, is Enes Kanter has the defensive ability of a 95-year-old grandma in the paint. For some reason, offense to defense, Enes Kanter is a god on offense. On defense, it's like you trying to guard Joel Embiid. It's just not going to happen. And that's a huge problem. And that's where we miss Porzingis in his ability to defend the rim. But again, it's not going to be a great season for either team. Both teams are severely lacking in several avenues.
Well, I do think the Nets could compete for a playoff spot. As we know, the East is very weak. If you look at the standings now, they are in the eighth spot, but you have teams like the Celtics and 76ers in which we both expect them to go back into the top eight.
And the Wizards,
But
to be honest.
and the Wizards, okay, yes, maybe. But you also have teams like the Hawks and the Magic who are expected to drop out. So they'll be in the mix. They'll be well in the mix there. So I do think the Nets are going to compete this year. But hey, we talked a lot today, man. We talked about boxing. We talked about WWE and Roman Reigns. We did some hockey. We did some football. Whether that was the Premier League or Serie A or the La Liga. We
Champions.
all the champions. We talked about some college basketball. We talked about some college football. We touched
Talk
up on
about
the
football,
MLB.
football.
Yeah, we touched up a little bit of the MLB playoffs and the World Series there. We tackled a little bit of football as well, and then we shot a little bit in of the NBA season there. We had Lagos. Wow, we had our picks for the week. With all that said, Lau, it was a great episode. I'm
I
looking
had a great
forward to
time.
I'm looking forward to doing our next episode. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram and Twitter at JNJTalksports. On Instagram, we post a lot of good debatable pictures and discussions there. On Twitter, we post up and tweet a lot of questionable sports I guess
Takes.
takes. Yeah, basically. You can follow me, Justin, quote unquote, Skywalker Palizzi at easypalizzi_21 on Twitter. La, where can our wonderful listeners follow you at?
Obviously, they can follow me at Lyle Style, LYLESSTYLE. And if you want to know more about Lyle Style, I also have a Twitch stream at Hellbent Tabletop, Tuesdays, 8 p.m., where I do nerd things.
And Lyle, really quickly, before we close out this podcast, how much money did John Gruden make since we start this episode?
$90,252 and 10, 11, 12, 13 cents.
There you have it. From over here at JNJ Talk Sports, we are out. Later.
Have a good night.